Good day, folks. My name is Alejandro. I'm here in quarantine. You're there at your house watching this video in quarantine. And I'm currently also growing out my hair to look like Syndrome from The Incredibles.
Bruh, look at this dude. Look at his hair.
And today I'm going to be talking to you about this idea I have, because quarantine has affected us all, and for me, it has given me a lot of time to do things that I really like to do, and I'm sure for some of you as well, it's the same way. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about one of my passions. So one of my passions is the environment, because what I'm talking about is environmental awareness. It's about knowing what we humans do that affect the environment. Not just, building a house or building a road, because that obviously affects the environment, but it's what you can't see. So these are the big three that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is food. So food production creates massive amounts of greenhouse gases. And y'all might say, well, what's a greenhouse gas? Some of y'all might already know what a greenhouse gas is. Well, good for you. But if you don't know, it's a gas that traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere instead of letting it radiate out into space. So what's so bad about this greenhouse effect is that it heats up the planet, and that's not good, because the environments around us, including ourselves, have evolved to live at a certain temperature range. Otherwise, it's all going to die out. And there are so many other reasons why global warming, as it's called, is tremendously tragic for the environment. Now, you could argue that climate change has been happening for the entire duration of our planet's existence, and you're right. But here's the thing. We humans are pumping so many greenhouse gases into the atmosphere that we've fundamentally changed the rate at which the planet is warming, so that the rest of the planet, the biosphere, the living matter on the planet, so all the other plants, animals, it's not evolving fast enough to catch up with it, meaning that it'll all go extinct. A mass extinction. And that we humans are in the middle of it, causing it. Right? So that would mean mass famine, mass just dying of everything, right? So this would happen in the future if we humans aren't proactive enough to change our ways, right? So I was talking about food, right? So food production pumps out massive amounts of methane into the atmosphere. And methane is incredibly potent as a greenhouse gas. Transportation is another huge factor, because you drive to school, you drive back from school, you go to the grocery store, you come back from the grocery store, and so on. Maybe you fly a plane somewhere. And that's just from your perspective, right? But there's all the transportation of goods and cargo and just everything else that is not necessarily related to people transit. And the way that we provide the energy for transportation is through fossil fuels in internal combustion engines, right? So a car engine, a train engine, an airplane engine, those all take fossil fuels, which will burn into carbon dioxide, which is another massive greenhouse gas. It's not as potent as methane, but it is still a greenhouse gas. quarantine means that you are staying at home, hopefully, right? So the amount of greenhouse gases that have drastically gone down is pretty amazing, because now that we're all staying home and that transportation around the world has gone down, it's shown how much impact we make. In fact, check out this graphic here. This graphic shows the concentration of nitrous oxide in the atmosphere of China. So nitrous oxide is by itself is not a greenhouse gas, and it comes from the exhaust emissions from cars and trains and airplanes. But nitrous oxide has a hand in producing tropospheric ozone, which is ozone that occurs near the ground, which is what tropospheric means. So tropospheric ozone is a greenhouse gas, not to mention an air pollutant which has serious health hazards. So you can tell that by China shutting down its transportation, it has completely cut the amount of tropospheric nitrous oxide and therefore ozone and therefore greenhouse gas emissions, as you can tell, between 2 months. It's like a temporary fix to the problem, right? It kind of will just open our eyes to it. But it's not a solution that will last forever. And the third way, number 3, is waste. Now, this is the one that you have a pretty large hand in doing. So, here's how waste affects the environment. So, all the stuff that goes in your trash can, where does it go? It goes in the trash truck that drives to a landfill, right? And that's transportation. And that's still going on. What happens is that a good amount of waste, about a third of all the waste in a landfill, is organic waste, meaning it was a formerly living organism, entity, something. It means all those scraps of fruits and veggies that you have that you don't eat, they go in the trash, right? So all this stuff will decompose because everything rots, right? If you leave like an apple slice out for a couple days, it'll start to rot. So that's exactly what happens inside the landfill. So a similar process to what happens in internal combustion engines happens inside these landfills. So all this waste decomposes in these landfills, and it produces methane, which, as I said before, is an extremely dangerous greenhouse gas. And the methane itself is produced by this organic matter. Another thing that you have to think about is that there are loads of recyclable materials like glass and plastics and paper and metals especially that go into landfills. And it's not that it decomposes or anything, but that it's exactly that. Because instead of mining new metals or producing new plastics out of crude oil or chopping down trees for more paper, we could recycle all this material and use it again instead of having to place much more energy into producing them again. So while you're at home, you can learn to sort your waste into recyclable materials and organic waste to lower your trash output, because lowering your trash output is ultimately going to benefit the environment. So the way that you will do these things is going to be explained in future videos. So I will teach you how to recycle and how to compost, which is how I deal with organic waste. And that is going to be the biggest environmental impact that you can have during times of quarantine. So get excited, because a collective effort between you and your classmates can actually have tangible results that you can see. So, oh, and one more thing before you go. I made an Instagram, so be sure to go follow the Instagram. The link is in the description below. I'm trying to make this as entertaining and as interactive as possible. So be sure to send me messages if you have any questions, or send me things to post if you indeed decide to do any of the projects I do in these videos. So now that's really it for today, folks.